चालू हो गया, बंद करा।
Hi friends, good morning everyone. I welcome all for the today's virtual meeting on Investor Awareness Program. Myself, CA Amish Sangoi, convener of Andheri Oshivara CPE Study Circle. I am grateful to our WRC Chairman Sir, CA Shri CA Lalit Bajaj Sir, and also Capital Market Chairman Sir, CA Jayesh Kala Sir. I request CA Jayesh Kala sir to say something on today's webinar. Jayesh sir, over to you.
Thank you, Amish ji, and good morning to all the participants. Good morning, Chairman Sir CA Lalit Bajaj. Good morning, Shri Vinayak ji Kinvinde. At today's time, when the capital market is at its peak, what is most important is the how to safeguard the interest of the investors, because we have seen the fall of 2008, fall of 2012, Harshad Mehta period, Ketan Parekh period, and many more such topsy-turvy market has been seen by us. This time it is expected that the market is the capital market is different, and there would not be sudden panic in the market, because SEBI has taken much steps for the protection of the investors. But at the same time, it is very important that investors should understand their rights and their responsibilities, so that they do not run behind quick money, and whatever steps they take is in the best interest of themselves. It is मतलब अगर आप शेयर मार्केट कैपिटल मार्केट को ट्रैक करते हो तो इट्स लाइक दैट कि आप सो के उठे एंड मार्केट इज अगेन up by 200 point 300 points. So it is normally ये सबके एक दिमाग में आता है कि यार we can really make good money over here, but then Vinayak ji, who is very expert in capital market, will definitely guide us that yes, क्विक मनी तो है, बट जो अपन सोचते हैं वो होता नहीं, और जो होता है वो सोचते नहीं है. सो वी शुड रिस्ट्रिक्ट आवर सेल्व्स, और जो अपने पुराने फादर्स, जो अपने पुराने थॉट्स हैं, जो फादर्स बोलते हैं कि भाई पैर उतने ही फैलाने चाहिए जितनी चद्दर हो, तो वो बात आज भी बहुत ही वैलिड है उस चीज के लिए. एंड वी शुड एंश्योर दैट वी शुड नॉट गो ओवर द बोर्ड एट एनी मोमेंट ऑफ टाइम, बिकॉज दिखने में दूसरे के थाली में घी हमेशा अच्छा लगता है, बट जब खुद पे आता है तो इट हैज टू बी utmost precaution has to be taken. So friends, with this I would once again just request all the participants that don't get carried away by the goody things which is happening. Make your own decisions. You are chartered accountant, and chartered accountant are the best analyst what we can say. So don't ever jump to the conclusions. अगर कोई चीज आपको कोई बोलता है कि भाई ये चीज ले लो, ये चीज मत लो, then you make your own analysis and only then you jump to the wagon. With this, I really express my gratitude to Amish Sangoi ji for inviting me and allowing me to interact with you all participants. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Amish ji. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jayesh sir, for accepting our invitation.
Murtuza Kachwala is also there with us. He will speak for today.
Okay. Okay. Murtuza sir.
Thank you, Amishi. And can you hear me?
Sir, yes, sir.
Okay. Yes. So, WRC Chairman Sri Lalit Bajaj, Regional Council Member Jayesh Kala, Convener, Co-Convener, all the seniors and friends. Thank you very much for inviting me here today. Unfortunately, Murphy's Law is caught up. I could not connect through my laptop, and hence I thought, like, let me at least join through the mobile and interact with you. So I completely agree with what Jayesh Bhai is saying. As a chartered accountant, we need to be a lot more aware, knowledgeable, and there is a responsibility also, because everyone who comes to office keeps asking, "Kya sir, किस में invest करूँ, क्या ले लूँ, क्या नहीं करूँ?" And these are difficult times, right? And they think that we are all knowing. But my sincere advice is like wherever we are giving advice or anything to any client, we should tell them that there should be a spread. Whether gold will go up and become double or not, gold prices I do not know, but at least some amount is put in gold, that is okay. Definitely some amount can be put in SIP and mutual fund, but again in mutual fund now there is so much of complication. Large fund, mid fund, small fund, hybrid fund, and X, Y, and Z. Maybe it is ideal to even have something which with a lower return but with a fixed deposit, like fixed type of a thing, where they invest in large corps, etc. So that could be one. And of course share market, but I would always, whenever I say anyone anything, I would say always stick to the A category, don't go to the B and C here and there. And like Jayaj bhai said, never listen to people's advice कि ये ले लो वो ले लो इतना हो जाएगा उतना हो जाएगा. Now the advice is coming on WhatsApp also free of cost, okay, कि ये share इतना बढ़ेगा, and by the time we enter it is a high peak and then it starts falling, and the people who have advised or started the rumor have already made their money and they start exiting, okay. So which is what happens most of the time, and hence and again I don't know, today people have started saying कि like commercial में invest मत करो, rent पे नहीं लगेगा, residential में invest करो, rent पे लगेगा. So I think that is also another thing, and where to invest and what. But of course with the banks like PMC and Lakshmi Vilas happening, you cannot keep a huge amount of money in your banks also. So they are all of a sudden closed. And now people are standing in queue to withdraw 5,000 or 2,500 rupees a day. So maybe I would also suggest to a few of my clients that they have 2 or 3 banks instead of one and keep their FDs or money accordingly. So that was a limited inputs, and happy learning to all of you, and thank you very much for inviting me here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Murtuza sir, for coming. I request now our chairman, CA Lalit Bajaj sir, to say some few words. Lalit sir.
Amish ji, I think there is some connectivity issue at
Yes,
chairman's place.
yes,
So
I think so.
I think you can carry on with the session, and when he gets connectivity, you can just invite him for addressing the.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Sir, okay, fine. Hello, friends. I welcome you all for the today's webinar on entrepreneurship opportunities in the security market. I am also grateful to our WRC Chairman, Sir CA Lalit Bajaj, for organizing such a wonderful session. The importance of investor awareness program is always said is one of the good risk mitigation factors. Nothing is wrong in having more awareness while investing in a product. So today, on the subject of investor awareness, I am stressing the fact that an investor who wants to invest or who have already invested money should look at the attending this type of program to get more knowledge and understand how much to invest, when to invest, and how long to invest. So it gives me the immense pleasure and privilege to introduce our today's speaker, Mr. Vinayak Kinvinde sir. Vinayak Kinvinde sir, CFP-CM, is a management graduate in finance from University of Pune, 1998 batch, and has over 20 years of experience in the capital markets. His experience spans in the areas such as equity, credit research, finance and control, portfolio wealth management. He has worked with global brands such as Modi's Knowledge Service, CRISIL, Fidelity Management, and Research Company. Currently, he is incubating a fintech company, developing a personal finance tool. He is a partner in a financial product distribution company, Eastern Express Advisor LLP, and coaching a young students to pursuing company secretary course. With this brief introduction, I request Mr. Vinayak Kinvinde to start his deliberation. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Murtuza sir. Thank you, Jayesh Kalaji. Thank you, Amish, and obviously the chairman, Lalit sir, for giving me this opportunity to talk to you guys this morning. It's a lovely day, a Sunday, and the amount of people that I'm seeing is crossing about 350. So I hope that I will make justice to today's session. It's an interesting session, so I would urge you all to be with me for the entire session. I would ideally want this session to be interactive, so I'm going to slides which basically are 2025, and then we will open the floor for questions. I would want you guys to ask as many questions at the end of the session, because the topic for the day is entrepreneurship opportunities in the securities market. Now, this is, as Murtaza sir or Jay sir already mentioned, that we have been dealing with young people, or experienced folks, or even people who are board members of companies deal with securities market as investors, as one set of individuals who basically deal with various investment products of securities or corporate bonds or whatever, gold, real estate, and so on and so forth. But this particular topic deals with you to be on the other side of the table, which means you will be a SEBI registered intermediary, or you will be the person who will be advising individuals on where to put your money. So whether it is real estate अच्छा है, या ये stock अच्छा है, या ये portfolio अच्छा है. So it is extremely important that you yourself get equipped in all the knowledge. So today's session on entrepreneurship will begin in a moment. That will touch upon most of how you can get on the other side of the table, what tools, what qualification, what experience you will require while dealing with being an advisor, being a security market professional, and what are the things that you should keep in mind before you jump into it. It's a minefield. So before you get into it, just you have to equip. So let's without wasting time, quickly start up. I'm just going to share my screen, and I hope you are able to view this. Yeah, sorry.
Vinayak, as you share the screen, I'll just take 30 seconds. So for the participants, they can type as many questions as possible in the chat box, and our technical team, Mishra ji, will collate everything in a Word document and present to you on the screen. And then maybe Amish or someone can even read out the questions for your benefit, Vinayak ji, and you can answer them. Okay?
Yeah, that will be really helpful.
Yeah, 12:15 or whenever you stop, that time we'll put all the questions to you, and then you can answer one by one. Thank you.
Sure. So I hope everybody is able to see my screen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Okay. Yeah, so let us begin without wasting any time. So entrepreneurship opportunities in the securities market is today's topic. What do we have on agenda today? A quick look at what do we have on agenda. We have basically what is the scope in the securities market for professionals. What are the key qualities of entrepreneurs? Please understand that any entrepreneur getting into business, whether it is securities market or any other business, retail, you can name any business, the key qualities required are basically a set of very soft factors. So we look at what are the key factors, the soft factors that you have to deal with when you're actually taking entrepreneurship challenge in this. Then what is the challenge or the level of difficulty? Each particular aspect or a class that you will operate into has its own set of challenges and difficulties. We'll try to look at those. Obviously, if you want to step into securities market, what are the structures possible? कहाँ से शुरू करें? What is the ladder that you can operate into? मुझे एक चीज करना है, मुझे सभी चीज करना है. We will try to look at that as well. Areas of work and operations. आप किस एरिया में स्पेशलाइजेशन करना चाहते हो? किस ऑपरेशंस को ध्यान में रखना चाहिए आप सबको when you are doing an entrepreneur, जब खुद का बिजनेस आप रन करोगे, and then possible scale and outlook. Now this is the interesting part. I've kept it at the end with a purpose, because then probably questions can come around from that perspective. भैया what is the level of scale? मैं आज अगर बिजनेस शुरू करूंगा day 0, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road, what kind of monies, what kind of outlook, what kind of opportunity is there in this kind of a when you're stepping into an entrepreneurship world. So this is the agenda for the day. I'll try to crunch it so that we have enough time for questions. So let's start. I want to first spend just maybe 5 minutes on 2 or 3 slides in the opening in terms of what the entrepreneur is, क्या soft skills चाहिए अपने को to be able to get into the entrepreneurial role in the securities market, and as a result of that we'll check what are the things that the entrepreneur has to be having. What does an entrepreneur do? An entrepreneur is someone who organizes, manages, assumes the risk of business and the enterprise. Now, this is a very generic definition of who the entrepreneur is. And obviously, an entrepreneur gets into his or her own business, obviously to make money. So, when the market value generated by a new combination of resources is greater than the market value of resources that he can generate individually or a combination, the entrepreneur makes a profit. So these are two very generic roles of an entrepreneur. Ek to he organizes everything that he needs to run a business. Then that might be human capital, financial capital, resources that are knowledge based, all of that together, and then puts them to efficient use to make money. That is the general role of the entrepreneur. He is a giver typically. So why is entrepreneurship as in the West? In Western markets, Europe or US or developed markets, typically a role of an entrepreneur is extremely critical. हम लोग देख रहे हैं कि काफी startups हो रहे हैं, fintech हो रहा है. So entrepreneur is a pedagogical role kind of. हर कोई entrepreneur के पास देखता है with a positive attitude, and so that's the positive part of it. The negative is that the entrepreneur himself is assuming or taking in a lot of risk, a lot of challenge. His personal capital, his financial capital, jo naam, which is basically in this business, it's all about trust and one's own name. So that is at risk. And obviously, finally, I think on this slide I want to spend a couple of minutes saying that it's all about money. Therefore, itne risks लेने के बाद में the idea is to what kind of payoff. So the payoff is what the entrepreneurs sort of he takes all those risks to be able to make a good payoff. Matlab, whatever risk he's taking, he will in 5, 10 or 15 years, possibly the hope is that when the entrepreneur succeeds, he will not have to depend on somebody to give him the paycheck. Just say if somebody is getting into a professional life as a salaried employee, then obviously you will get a bonus, you will get a fixed monthly salary or possibly an ESOP or whatever. But when you're taking a role of an entrepreneur, then please understand that the payoff is asymmetric. मतलब आप जितना भी risk life में ले रहे हो, उसके लिए the return is the sky is the limit. Which means today if you start with a capital of maybe 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 lakhs, the payoff can be a few crores of rupees or multiple of those. So that is the reason why the entrepreneurial sort of a role is extremely important. What is the scope for the entrepreneur? So before we step into this slide, I just want to lay out.
Vivek sir, just 1 minute. CA Lalit Chairman sir has joined. So
Yes,
just I will take 2 minutes of the sir to address because the connectivity was gone. Welcome sir, Lalit Bajaj sir. I request to address for the today's session.
Thank you, Amish. I apologize to all the participants, Vinayak ji, for interference with your session. Vinayak ji, my chairman of Capital Market Committee, Jayesh Kala, Secretary Murtuza Kachwala, leader of Andheri Oshuwala Study Circle, Amish Sangoi and his team. Seniors and friends, welcome all of you in this August gathering, wherein we have kept investor awareness program conducted by WRC and hosted by Andheri Oshuwala Study Circle. At the outset, I congratulate Amish personally and his team and the whole Andheri Oshuwala Study Circle for taking this initiative and enabling WRC in conducting this program. And let me share with all of you that this is the first virtual program on investor awareness. And I believe this will open a new Pandora for all of us, because the awareness about this particular subject needs to be with each and every nook and corner of our fraternity and society. When we talk about previously, when we used to speak about chartered accountants, we used to either speak about consultancy or industry. But lately, it has been an talk of the town that we generally add one more acronym to this, which is entrepreneur. And I think so today's session will really enable us chartered accountants to understand that if at all we need to pursue an entrepreneurial career in securities market, what are the basic concepts, what are the basic thought process which we should imbibe ourselves, or which we need to equip.
I think there is some connectivity problem again.
I think you now can continue, because I think there's some connectivity issues, but you can carry on, Amish ji, now.
Okay, Vinayak sir, you can start deliberation.
Yeah, sure. So I'm just sharing the screen back. I think Lalit sir is back, so maybe I
Yes,
think if you
back. Lalit sir connected now. Vinayak sir, you can continue. We can take later the speech. Okay.
yeah, you're able to see my screen again, gentlemen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I just want to spend just about a minute's time in terms of scope for the entrepreneur. The topic for the day is in the securities market. So I'm sure all my CA friends, or who are just budding CAs, or who are student CAs, or people who are already in the business might be fairly aware of where the market spread is. So financial markets these are highly regulated markets the world over. In India, obviously, the RBI, PFRDA, IRDA, and SEBI basically is regulating each sections of the financial markets with respect to banks, pension funds, insurance funds, and the securities market in particular. So SEBI is the sort of governing board, or the financial authority which controls the entire securities market. We are going to concentrate on the entrepreneur role in this particular bucket. SEBI regulates almost all functions of the securities market. So SEBI has got every single regulation starting from 1998 when it was formed to today, and these basically are evolving regulations. So over the last 20 years, in fact, we started concurrently with the Securities Contract Regulation Act. We started concurrently with then the Depositories Act, and then SEBI Act itself started with regulating concurrently with the Companies Act, which also has seen 2 or 3 different shifts from 56 to 2013 to 2017 and so on and so forth. So these regulations, if you have followed in the last 5 years, from 2015 to 20, ये 5 साल में ही SEBI ने intermediaries पे almost every other year regulations लाए हैं. एक बात. दूसरी बात, every regulations have gone in the last 3 years after they were formulated. For example, the SEBI, let's say investment advisor regulation 2013 has gone 2 or 3 different series. So every 3 years में ये regulations भी change हुए हैं. After the regulations also have come in force. So people, I mean, just to give you an example, they are like Rajasthan sand dunes, these regulations. So you have to, as an entrepreneur, be on top of regulations when you are becoming an entrepreneur or wanting to become an entrepreneur. You have to be very tightly aligned with what the regulations, because they keep changing from, let's say, a couple of years time, and they completely change from what they were originally promulgated. For example, in the SEBI's intermediary regulations, you have regulations for broker dealer, merchant banker, investment advisor, portfolio manager, rating agencies, research analyst, या आरटी एजेंट्स हो या फाइनली एएमसीज और कलेक्टिव इन्वेस्टमेंट स्कीम्स हो, ये सारे इंटरमीडियरीज जो सिक्योरिटीज मार्केट में ऑपरेट करते हैं, these are basically the roles, they are the bridge between the final investor and basically the people who want to have who are seeking capital basically. So if it is in the secondary market, then you have broker, dealers and commission agents. If it is basically the sort of a portfolio manager, then any capital that is being raised, or a merchant banker, for example, the capital that is being raised by any company, he is an intermediary between savers and whoever is in the need of capital. So each of these intermediaries is highly regulated. That's point number one. So if any entrepreneur wants to be any one of these, किसी को ब्रोकर डीलर भी बनना है, मर्चेंट बैंकर बनना है, इन्वेस्टमेंट एडवाइजर बनना है, देयर इज अ स्पेसिफिक रेगुलेशन इशूड इन ओवर द लास्ट 5 years to 7 years. These regulations have become more and more tighter as we go ahead. In 2020, during the coronavirus pandemic, also there were 2 or 3 set of regulations between the investment advisor and the portfolio manager which came into force. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि भैया यू हैव ऑफ ईयर, टिपिकली 1 साल या 2 साल छोड़ के these regulations are being updated. So any entrepreneur wanting to become an intermediary, that is the first step that we are talking about, and within an intermediary, any of these kind of roles that you want to play, there is a regulation for that, and we will obviously come to a certain for all our CA friends or aspiring CAs, budding CAs, or even practicing CAs who would want to work as an intermediary, we will look at in the following slides कि बस आप क्या कर सकते हो. The other role is consulting. आपको intermediary नहीं बनना है. You don't want to get into regulations or whatever. As a CA or as a sort of a professional, you can do consulting. Because and I can quote an example. For example, अगर कोई भी wants any individual or entity wants to become an investment advisor, then he needs to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there are the regulations that are there. So as per regulation 6, there is who can do it. As per regulation 7 of that particular investment advisor regulations, there are qualification criteria. As per regulation 8, then there are capital adequacy. ये सारा काम करने के लिए the person or entity who wants to do that will need some help. So the consulting practice in this chart basically you can become a consultant to anybody who wants to become an investment advisor, point number 1. Who is already a participating or a practicing investment advisor, there are other set of regulations that he needs to adhere to on a continuing basis. So you would require consulting to those, like filing of SEBI reports or whatever that kind of or if the SEBI issues a so-called notice, then what needs to be done, the consultant can. So there is a role that you as an entrepreneur can get into a consulting practice without being an intermediary. The other emerging role that an entrepreneur can take is the operations tech support. A lot of fintech companies are trying to get into the securities market as a tech-enabled platform for all these intermediaries. So if you want to use your domain knowledge in the securities market, और आपको ये झमेला नहीं चाहिए to get into I don't want to get into regulated market, I don't have the capital, I don't want so much of a headache, then possibly if you have the knowledge or if you sort of gain the knowledge, which we will see in the later slides कि आपको क्या-क्या knowledge इकट्ठा करना है उससे पहले, you can use that knowledge to start a firm or enable it to get into an operation support or a tech support kind of a role, and you can float a company and become an entrepreneur. And finally, the biggest role that I think CAs as a practicing CA probably always do is an audit and risk management kind of a role. So all these intermediaries obviously need a lot of risk management and are in constant need of doing audit, whether it is the statutory audit that is enabled or that is required as per law, as per these regulations, or audit in the nature of which requires the management to know what's happening as a tool for risk management. So these two areas of audit and risk management are certainly the ones which are probably the easiest for practicing CAs from a scope from an entrepreneurship. So I guess this is the kind of a slide which I will leave you with when we go on, and this is the master slide if anybody wants to have a entrepreneur, because which is the branch. because after this we are getting into an intermediary kind of, because securities market में actually काम करना है और पैसे कमाने हैं, and I want to get in as an advisor, then we are getting into the first branch, which is the intermediary. We are not as much touching in the roles of consulting, operations, or tech support and audit and risk management, because I guess those roles are not a direct securities market roles; those are enabling roles. So today we are looking at the first branch of the intermediary. मुझे बनना है as an entrepreneur or as a person who wants to build a firm there, and we are going to look at that role from today's perspective. So I think I'm sort of getting to the slide number 3 of the important 3 slides that I said, the key qualities. The first important thing that I want to mention out here is that आपको अगर business चलाना हो तो ये मान करके चलो कि you need knowledge, you need sort of resources. आपको ऑफिस चाहिए, आपको लोग चाहिए, आपको नॉलेज चाहिए, आपको कैपिटल चाहिए. All of the things, obviously in the first slide we saw that you need as an entrepreneur. But the most important stuff that you need as an entrepreneur in securities market is the right, and most of these are basically soft skills. So आपको you should be able to basically deal with ethics and principles. If your principles and ethics are very clear, if you are on the right side of the law, not only in terms of letter but also in terms of spirit, मतलब आप regulations तो सारे follow कर रहे हो, if you are an intermediary for example, लेकिन आप you are trying to be on the fringe of the regulations. You are not actually you are breaking them in most occasions, but from a letter of the law in terms of regulations you are right. I think more often than not you basically run into trouble. So soft skills में your mental makeup in terms of ethics and principles are extremely important. That's point number 1. Point number 2, you will be always dealing with individuals and institutions. That's point number 1. Point number 2, you are always dealing with people's money in fiduciary capacity, and it is not going to be just 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, 25 lakhs. It will be multiples of crores of rupees. For example, as an investment advisor or a portfolio manager, आपका धंधा ही to make any sense of the business itself will start at 50 crores, 100 crores, and multiples of that. When you are dealing with that kind of money on a fiduciary basis, the trust and the ability to gain trust and get the business is going to be extremely paramount. So these are the soft factors in terms of principles, ethics, and your ability to create a relationship, a favorable, positive opinion of yourself or the firm. You need to have good vision and mission and those kinds of, and basically you're a good person to deal with. That kind of a projection of your image has to be there. So qualities of an entrepreneur for this particular securities market, and I'm sure a lot of people or all the panelists out here or attendees out here have seen at least some or portion of the Ishq Hai to Risk Hai to Ishq Hai kind of a scam, 1992 Arshad Mehta wala kind of a those episodes. So there, whatever was allowed or whatever was at that point in time, just insider trading or whatever, we all knew that it is sort of wrong thing to do. Even today, there are the regulations don't permit 1, 2, 3, but there are people who continue to do that because there is no way that you can so that the compliance person can actually identify unless you are too big, right? So it is not for you to exploit those. The idea is to actually have an extremely clean image when you are getting into the securities market. The reason is that there will be many type of players, there will be many type of entrepreneurs who will go ahead of you, who will make more money, and it is easier or a tempting thing to do, to fall prey to these vices in the securities market, and that's extremely important. So if you're doing it, if you think that you're cut out to become an entrepreneur in the securities market, soft skills are important, and that's why in all those 4 things, आपको business लाना है, regulations को adhere करके understand करना है, ethics, you have to be ethical and you have to be a principled person. Your firm has to be a principled enterprise. You have to be servicing your clients with ultimate, sort of an objective to only serve the clients. Paisa banega, automatically banega. If the client is happy, then you will automatically make money. So your servicing capabilities or your building of trust is extremely important. But all of this, uske below all of that, the underlying undercurrent is finally the risk management. You will have to manage the risk of the firm, your own risk of, by having ethics and principles, by understanding regulations, but risk management are also the fiduciary monies that the, sort of the client is entrusting you as a, maybe as a portfolio manager, as a merchant banker, as a investment advisor, or as a broker. If you just become a broker, then obviously you will have own accounts of these. आपके broker code में या आपके broker terminal पे, they will have humongous amount of DPs, और DPs में काफी माल पड़ा रहेगा, which will be worth crores of rupees. You have a fiduciary responsibility on that the capital of the people. And therefore risk management, that if you are clear, then ensure that your employees, your principals, your your agents who are dealing with those terminals, those tools, are then completely managed, and the risk and all these points are managed effectively. So risk management is extremely important from entering into a securities market. Now let's look at, when you're getting into this business, what are the challenges and the level of difficulty. This is very easy to understand, difficult to implement. Having said that, I think it's an extremely good thing that once you एक बार चस्का लग जाएगा आपको, because once you become an entrepreneur, once you get into this, I don't think that you will ever go back to working again, right? So that is the thing that I can tell you in today's session. So the key takeaway to, despite all the challenges, despite all the level of difficulty that you have, आपको क्या-क्या लगेगा to get to become an entrepreneur, to get into a securities market? What are the things on a basic level that you will need? You will need capital and resources. Now, this is unique in this kind of an industry, and I'll tell you why. The reason is, for any service business, right, the capital that is required, for example, if somebody wants to become a lawyer or start a law firm, which is one or two or three people, like three lawyers coming together and sort of starting a law firm, what is the capital or what are the resources that they require? I guess just the law degree, or maybe sort of years of practice, that will also require probably. Similarly, any service business that you take, let us say a lot of people are, you take your own profession, like a CA professional. What is the capital or what are the resources that you require? You won't require a large capital or resources. You need an office, you need a desk, you need a human capital, of course, but वो बाद में आता है body of knowledge के बाद. But first thing, you just require a internet and you require a connection. You just require basically basic tools to be able to, and basic your ingredient is all in your head. It's all soft. It's all, you don't require heavy dose of capital. Now, so service businesses typically require low capital. Now, in securities market, unfortunately, this may or may not be true world over, but in securities market, if you want to, and that's what the regulator says, if you have an experience, you have the certificate, you have done all the certifications, you will still require a minimum capital in terms of net worth, whether it's individual or firm. If it's firm, then it's a higher level of threshold at each level of intermediary if you want to get into that. So you require basic level of capital resource. That's one challenge or level of difficulty one starts. So that's the starting point. Second, and the most important, this particular profession or sort of this particular entrepreneurship journey starts with a vast body of knowledge. So आपको body of knowledge किस प्रकार मिलेगा? We will get into a sort of a few slides and look at each individual intermediate को क्या type of body of knowledge चाहिए. But suffice to say at this moment that you require in-depth knowledge of the securities market, which means equities market हो, credit markets हो, the functioning of the equities market, कैसे होता है, क्या होता है. If it is equities particularly, then sector knowledge, then how basically the companies or particular sector. And typically most of the CAs or most of the MBAs will have this body of knowledge in their core curriculum as they study, because financial statement analysis हो या valuation हो या जो भी है. So once you've got basically your degree as a professional certification, that certificate of practice आपके पास है, या फिर you have passed the CA or anybody has passed MBA from a marquee institute, then the body of knowledge is already built because as a part of their core curriculum. वो body of knowledge को you have to take it from an experience perspective. So actual functioning from theory to practice. So the theory part that you learn, is when you practice, you will know that these are the nuances of the equities market in terms of, the way that this thing works and this thing does not. So that is the basic challenge of, or a level of difficulty, that deep in-depth body of knowledge building is extremely critical. Then compliance and regulations, as we all, so it's all about the CA4 course itself has a lot of coverage in terms of what you have to statutorily comply, what you have to comply as a good practice, what is a good practice, and sort of from a governance perspective, what are the pointers to good governance. I think you people have already have the base of the core knowledge, but as I said in maybe 5 or 10 minutes ago, and you guys are aware that regulations are like your Rajasthani sand dunes. आप एक हफ्ता या एक दिन पहले जाओगे ना, dunes will be ऊपर नीचे, and the next day morning the dunes might have shifted completely. आपने यहाँ पे फोटो लिया, आपको पता भी नहीं चलेगा कि बॉस अरे this thing was high here and today this is completely changed. The complete landscape has changed. The same is true with regulations as well. We start with, let's say, basic regulations, but उसपे एक layer, दूसरा layer, तीसरा layer, and finally we get into regulations which become extremely tight for anybody to operate, or maybe extremely onerous to comply. And when that happens, the entrepreneur or anybody who's practicing the security market will have to keep their eye on the ball always. आप ऐसे नहीं बोल सकते कि boss, at 2019 में whatever discussion paper that SEBI had, sort of bought on a particular intermediary or a particular part of the market, I read it, and then, again, there's a consultation paper, there is a circular, there's a master circular, there is, so these things will keep, and you will have to be on your toes in terms of complying with the regulations which are ever changing. Anything that you miss, you are liable, obviously, if you're a firm, then you're liable to face the penalty or the action or the so-called notice or whatever. So as an entrepreneur, capital resources bana hai, I have put everything together, body of knowledge bhi hai, then there's sort of compliance and regulations that I have to be ever sort of known and kept abreast with. And finally, it is the risk management. Is sara maine kar liya. I have the capital and resources. I have a working kind of a model which is there. My business is working. I have good body of knowledge. All my staff, including myself, is well versed with all aspects of the markets we deal with. We are also compliant. We are regulated. हमारे पास सारे certifications है. Great. Next is the operations piece, which means as you operate, as you deal with client, as you deal with money, money comes, money goes. They are onboarding clients, clients are exiting or onboarding. When the client is onboarded, he gives you, let's say, he wants to try you out, and he gives you, obviously, as an asset under advisory, for example, he gives you saying that please take this 3 crores, 4 crores, or 1 crore and manage it. If you are doing a good job, that 1 crore can become 10 crores or 15 crores. Similarly, if you are adding more clients, your clients will grow from 5 to 10, 10 to 15 to 200. What is the risk management practice? Because one particular incident, one particular risk management loophole, if you keep that open, can damage all of the sort of the work or the hard work that you have done. You have put in capital, आपको सारा body of knowledge है, you are compliant, but then you messed up in one particular area and the risk management funnel was open, and as a result of which you lost money, or you did a bad job, or there was a so-called notice, whatever happened, or somebody files a case. If you have not managed that risk well, then I guess all of the hard work, years of hard work, can come to naught. So I think this is the challenge or the level of difficulties that you will have to live with. We will try to touch in today's session for the next maybe 15-20 minutes as much as all of these the items that we discussed on this particular slide. Now, coming into the good part in the sense that what is the scope here? SEBI intermediaries, the first slide that we saw, that SEBI mein intermediaries mein there are about 5-10 different ways that I can get into and start a practice, one step at a time. Because if I want to start up with, let's say, research analyst, तो क्या करना पड़ेगा, right? I want to start up okay, advisory is my kind of forte, तो क्या करना पड़ेगा? So SEBI intermediaries में the first thing is that you have got a lot of scope. The scope is very wide in terms of what you can do in terms of SEBI intermediaries. And as we say this, the scope is not just limited to one activity of SEBI intermediaries. For example, large companies today, which sort of you can, if for the sake of the seminar, and just don't quote me on this anywhere, is that if I were to take an example of, let us say, the brokers or the discount brokers as they call it today, of your, whether it is Prabhudas Leeladhar or K.R. Choksi, Dhanaran Rocha or whatever, they started as a broking kind of an outfit. So today, if you want to start with a broker or a sub broker or whatever, then there is definitely a regulation that you can start your practice by doing 1, 2, 3. But all of these brokers over a time became involved, for whatever their own vision, mission or whatever, involved in not just broking but advisory bhi karte hain. They do their own portfolio management, so they have got their own PMS, sort of a setup. Then your other financial product distribution bhi karte hain. So you're doing that as well. You're trying to sell mutual funds, you're trying to sell, let's say, insurance, you're trying to sell third-party products, and so on and so forth. So the beauty about this scope as an entrepreneur, if you want to do, is that you can start one, and then as you get your expertise, build the blocks and become a full service. Which means you started off as a broker, or you started off as a research analyst, or you started off as a maybe just a investment advisor, but I became a distributor as also, I became a research analyst also, and then sort of I have built up the practice in whatever 3 or 5 years, so that each one is a separately identifiable department division which is having its own profit and loss. You can do that as well. So you can either specialize in one, or you can go the whole hog in terms of दोनों में सभी कर रहा हूँ. And I am now whatever a managing director or principal for 4 businesses that I have. So similarly, in the scope that sort of which is there for any entrepreneur in the securities market is fairly wide. If you have seen the first slide, and I'm limiting it to the discussion for today. The reason being is that we will start with the building block, which is अगर मैं individual करके शुरू करूँ, there are only 3 or 4 or 5 intermediaries that we saw on the whole list that we can get into. So research analyst, the first thing is the research function that we saw. Investment advisor or advisory practice is the other function of a SEBI regulated function. Money management, which means the PMS or BIF function, जो आप kind of you can start off. Unfortunately, we do not have individual as the default mode here is the corporate, but the corporate can be just 2 people. आप LLP शुरू करो and that becomes a non-individual entity which can do an AIA for a investment advisor. You can apply as an investment advisor. और पोर्टफोलियो मैनेजर. सो रिसर्च कर सकते हैं, एडवाइजरी कर सकते हैं, मनी मैनेजमेंट कर सकते हैं, डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन कर सकते हैं. दिस इज वी सीन दैट दिस इज द फर्स्ट पीस. द डिस्ट्रीब्यूटिंग ऑफ फाइनेंशियल प्रोडक्ट्स इज द फर्स्ट पीस which is easy understood, easy to start, easy to close, plug and play. So that is the part where you are talking about broker, dealer, commission agents kind of portion which we saw first up in the slide. Which happened earlier, is that distribution is the most easiest way to start as a SEBI registered intermediary, but as an entrepreneurial sort of a journey that if you want to start. Then there will be other roles that you can get into, how to make market more efficient. So you want to become sort of a merchant banker, हो सकता है, या फिर you want to sort of become just an RTA. So today, if you know, there are only, for example, Carvi is known as an RTA. There is Big Share. Then there are dim a dozen, like 6 or 7 different RTAs. So आपको अगर market efficiency चाहिए, so current RTAs are not very efficient. I want to start let's say an RTA which will be completely tech enabled, so you can do that as well. Then you want to solve a particular problem, because for example in the last 3-4 years, if you have seen, broking as a profession or as an entrepreneur, whoever has done broking, that is a stock broking I'm talking about, is a profession which is as old as the BSc itself. The BSc is already finished, I think, 150 years. So जितना पुराना BSc है उतना पुराना जॉबिंग या स्टॉक ब्रोकिंग इज अ प्रोफेशन और एन एंटरप्रेन्योर वो करते ही आ रहे हैं हम लोग. बट in the last 3, 4, 5 years, वही function को someone like a Zerodha or someone like who's someone like a Piggy, for example, in mutual funds or whatever. These are just examples. Don't take me that they are efficient or they are recommended or whatever. These are just examples. They have solved a particular problem. The problem is the high frequency trade. Let us say if I want to do everything myself. मेरे को broker एक interface ही चाहिए. I do not need. That problem has been solved by, let's say, Zerodha, and that's the reason why he became the number one, sort of a broker, because एक तो free there, right? That's a different story. But apparently during market peak or whatever, and there are two opinions that some people are saying on social media, because this is still a problem in high frequency time. There are problems with this app or in this thing, but generally he's more efficient and he's more in terms of quotes that are coming, and that's he solved the problem. That means you need not actually call a broker or go to a terminal, sort of, and place your trade, or even on a web-based platform like you go to any broker today, just go online and just place your trade, or maybe place an overnight trade. He solved a problem 2 or 3 years ago when he just gave an app and said, "Boss, account opening online, quick, easy, click, and you're done." So he solved that kind of a problem, which it becomes easier. So your lag wala problem tha solve. You can be that, or you can be something else, which can be, as I said, consulting ho sakta hai. You can be, sort of, you can participate. So these are the scope for semi-intermediate is fairly large, and I guess we will now look at key structures. So I think this is important for you as a individual when you all are listening, that because all of these semi-intermediaries may basically, how is it that I as an individual, as a basic, at a basic level, can participate. So SEBI investment advisor, a research analyst, and a broker dealer commission agent. So the 1, 2, the first pillar, the second, and the fourth pillar are basically the ones which allow individuals to practice as a SEBI intermediary. The portfolio manager or the AIF, unfortunately, the regulations specify that you should be a corporate. If you say I want to become an individual portfolio manager, I guess that route is closed. And the corporate, it can be a private limited, it can be also be an LLP. I've just kept a private limited because that is the most, so I've kept these routes available which are the most popular or the most prominent routes out here. But the investment advisor, the research analyst, and the broker dealer commission agent, which I will get into detail, are the ones where, as an individual, if you want to say, "Boss, I want to do an entrepreneurship, मुझे शुरू करना है कुछ खुद का." So then these are the roles which are the first easy, kind of a plug and play roles that you can think about it. Now, just if you were on the slide which I talked about at the opening, the jo SEBI intermediaries list tha, which had about between 8 and 10 different roles, like an RTA that we talked about, or a merchant banker. Those are close to individuals, so you need certainly a corporate to start that. And two, they are extremely capital heavy. If you want to start a merchant banker, the SEBI regulation says that, and we get, I need to, because I have not concentrated on that for the moment, because it's mostly for individuals that we're talking about today, but typically 25 crore. If you want to start an AIF, for example, mandated minimum is like, 20 crores, sort of, for as a number of clients, and then each client is 1 crore, and so on and so forth. So portfolio manager, like an AIF or a portfolio manager, will say, today's regulations say that you need a minimum. So if you're applying today, you need minimum net worth of that entity, whether an LLP or a private limited company that you want to start, is a 5 crore net worth, right? So, and plus the fees, which are again 10 lakhs, then 5 lakhs, then application fee, you have to pay 1 lakh, and so on and so forth. So the capital heaviness of the certain intermediaries, predominantly portfolio manager, is still doable, or an AIF is still doable, but a merchant banker or an RTA will require huge amount of capex that you need to do in basically systems, softwares and processes, and number of sort of employees at a base level, and the corporate capital that you will require. So today, the intermediate structure that we are talking about from an entrepreneur's perspective is just these 3 or 4 which are absolutely open, that you can quickly do plug and play. So the investment advisor is the one where it talks about an individual can do it, corporate bhi kar sakte hain, and then research you can start off with an individual. And so these are the kind of a sort of a spread that you can start off with. Now, areas of work. Now, in these entire structures that we saw, what are the areas that you can, as we just talked about, now research analyst. Now, research analyst, we all know, is basically typically, so core requirements kya hai for research analyst, okay? Now, I am going to talk to you on research analyst on a two-fold basis. One is, आप रिसर्च एनालिस्ट अपना एंटरप्रेन्योर बनने से पहले आपको बेसिकली व्हाट आर द टूल्स दैट यू वुड नीड टू पुट इन प्लेस. सो रिसर्च एनालिस्ट इज टिपिकल, आपने अगर एज अ बडिंग सीईओ आल्सो और कंप्लीटेड सीईओ आल्सो, पीपल हु हैव टू areas of getting into, so this is just before the actual research analyst entrepreneurship that I'm talking about, because first is you need body of knowledge. So aapko research analyst basically, before you start on your own research analyst as a business, you need to know because that research analyst ka core sort of role kya hai, how does the work environment sort of actually the research analyst, what are the roles that he does. And if you are aware that if you are a CA or an MBA, the typical role is you would go to two places to work basically as an employee. You would either go to a typical sell side, which is all these brokers that we already talked about. I would go to HDFC Securities, ICICI Securities. I would go to Ambit Research. These are all institutional brokers. Okay, so मैं या फिर retail broker, जो भी आप बोलो. So you will go and work with them for 1, 2 or 3 years. They will give you a particular sector, a set of sectors, or maybe so वहाँ पे career progression as an individual, right? As if you're working as an employee, is very simple. You get as an associate or a research analyst, you work for 2, 3 years in a particular sector or a set of sectors. You have earned the reputation, you rotate the sectors, get more experience. 3, 5 years may you become, let's say, a lead analyst, which means you are controlling the sort of people who are coming into your fold, who are new. You are onboarding them. So आप lead analyst बन गए, वहाँ से आप senior, वहाँ से आप manager बन गए. For example, in that sell side firm itself, that you are managing about 3, 6, 7 or 8, team of 8. You become the senior manager, which means half of the sectors under coverage आप कर रहे हो basically, right? And then you become a head of research. That is the journey of a typical sell side. Now the other sort of glamorous or so-called glamorous that everybody aspires to be is the buy side, which means अगर कोई portfolio manager के साथ मैं काम कर रहा हूँ, I mean as an employee I'm talking about. If I'm working with a portfolio manager or a mutual fund or a pension fund, or let's say even a corporate who has his own proprietary desk, that is a typical buy side. So वहाँ पे आपका role over the first few years, again you are doing the same stuff as a sell side analyst, but आप actually recommendation दे रहे हो to the portfolio manager, saying that boss, these are the select stocks that are important or whatever. So these journey that happens will lay the core foundation. So in the buy side, typically your aspiration would be 3, 5 years I become the analyst and then become kind of a deputy portfolio manager, and then 5, 8, 10 years में मैं portfolio manager बन रहा हूँ, and then portfolio manager I'm running 1 or 2 sort of large portfolio, and then I become the whatever CIO or whatever. So that kind of a role. These two typical roles that I explained are as you as a sort of a employee for a particular large firm or a boutique firm or whatever you call that. Now this role can be completely turned upside down when you take an entrepreneurship, and you say that ये मैं खुद शुरू कर रहा हूँ. I'm going to SEBI. मैं बोल रहा हूँ कि okay, I got a 5-year, 8-year or whatever, or even a 3-year or 2-year or whatever experience, and you're confident enough. कि बस 2 साल का experience बहुत है मेरे लिए. I'm going to do it on my own, and I'm confident. I'm starting early. So you say, boss, okay, so let me apply as a SEBI registered research analyst. So you can actually, as we saw in the earlier slide, you can actually apply as an individual, or if you are 2 or 3 people, set of people, and you're confident that you want to build a firm, you can apply as a corporate. The eligibility criteria is laid in the SEBI research analyst regulations. So that's very, very clear. Okay, that's a 5-8 pager regulation which दिखता तो एकदम सिंपल है that ये 1 2 3 4 regulation 3 whatever definitions, regulation 6 talks about who can apply, 7 talks about qualification, 8 talks about capital adequacy. It's very simple. So it has and it's watertight as well. It means what you can do, what you cannot do. That also very clearly mentioned. So eligibility criteria, if you individually want to start as an entrepreneur, you need to be a NISM passed sort of National Institute of Securities Market ka NISM ka, you need to pass that research analyst module, okay? And it says a graduate with 5 years or a postgraduate, if you have an MBA or a kind of a whatever MA or whatever, you can apply for this particular regulation. आपको fees देने बोलेंगे. The beauty is not about that you have the capital, you have the required certification, you also have the body of knowledge. You have, let's say you have gone and worked for 3 4 5 years and you got the body of knowledge. The beauty is about the business model. What would you do as a research analyst, okay, and how would you build a business? So understand that in whatever if you are an employee, whatever you were doing as a research analyst, and वो firm कैसे पैसा कमाती है, और वो basically how does ICICI Securities and HDFC Security earn its money? It's earning its money on the recommendations based on the company or a sector, and basically telling its retail or institutional clients कि बस आप ये मेरा recommendation है और मेरे broker platform पे आप trade करो. Now understand the difference between when you get this registration, the SEBI research analyst registration, versus somebody is doing it for broker. Understand the difference is that the research that HDFC, ICICI or whoever, Prabhudas, Dalal, Brocha or whoever is Quant or whoever is doing it, is that the research is incidental. Their main business is to earn actually through broker terminals. So jitne bhi trades ho rahe hain, he's earning sort of brokerage or commission from that, or a product selling from that platform. As a research analyst, you have to sell your research, which means you will have to have subscribers to your research. Now, the biggest and the easiest way, to be very honest, it's all in front of you, that some platform called as Markets Mojo, for example. So you go to marketsmojo.com or you go to equitymaster.com. So these, or you go to any other similar platform which are there in Mumbai or Bangalore or wherever. There was I have a recommendation kind of a website. It's not a recommendation, and you subscribe to my research or my tool or my model, right? So that's exactly how your revenue model is going to work. So you will once you get the research certification, you should be confident to be able to do it yourself or have a team. Now, if you're an individual, the level of difficulty for you is that basically that you will need to have research on continuing basis on 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 different companies, and that research should be marketable. किसी को आप भेज रहे हो, so he should be able to pay for that research report or the entire suite of service that you have. Or if you are a corporate or 5 or 10 individuals you get together, then you should have a subscription which should hopefully make the business case to pay your own salaries and then the profit, right? So you could do local, you could do global. जैसे you could say कि बोल मैं globally ये करता हूँ. Research analyst certification or the registration in India is valid for Indian research. So which means अगर आप इंडिया में बैठ के you are doing research on Amazon, Google, IBM, and giving that research to non-Indians, people outside India's jurisdiction, then the research analyst certification typically would not be relevant. If you are giving recommendations and to people residing in India, right, in the Indian borders, then this registration is required. You cannot charge. Obviously, free mein karo to alag baat hai. That's not a business model. If you are charging people and saying that, boss, I'm doing research, ye mera report hai, aur aap mujhe paise do, and that's the business model, then research analyst registration is kind of mandated. Okay, so these are the core requirements that you would have for this business model. So what अगर आप ये research analyst as a sort of an entrepreneurial that's what you want to do, then understand the business model. If you are an individual or if you're a group or a corporate, pedigree is extremely important. वो research report वहाँ से आ रहा है, for example XYZ corporate से आ रहा है, and people love that research. People are willing to pay whatever subscription you are willing to charge. Annually आप बोल रहे हो, okay, my subscription is 25,000 rupees or 14,000 rupees or 15,000 rupees per year, and you have got, let's say, 500 subscribers, 1000 subscribers, 15,000 subscribers, then you have got a good business model. One, two is that will happen when you have built up a strong case of a guru or a pedigree, an excellent sort of a reputation. Then that thing works. Point number. Point number two, retail and institutional. That's again quantity versus quality wala argument, which means you want everybody in India to read your research report and basically take a decision based on buying or selling on your research report. And individuals, then you are basically a retail kind of a business model. If you are doing it in India, I have three corporates or one or two fund managers are subscribing to my research. They like me or my firm, and then basically I'm sending it to them, and they are paying me. There are a lot of platforms which actually do this. Internationally, so you have got many platforms which just subscribe to the platform and the research, and then obviously you sort of you can avail this service, and it's a working business model. What works here? Track records. And you know that basically you've seen that ICICI Securities or HDFC Securities or Axis or whichever Kotak Securities or these guys show their track records in saying that we gave so many recommendations and so many are actually achieved or hit or miss or whatever. So that pedigree of building the track record matters. Differentiation actually in research. So forensic कर रहे हो, sector specific कर रहे हो, या sort of, so that matters again. Public scrutiny, I guess, is very less of a concern when you're a research analyst, because the research is paid by someone, and therefore unless you are doing so, the risk management for you as an entrepreneur in this research analyst certification is just that you're not getting paid for doing some damage or doing some front running. So just understand that you will do damage to your entrepreneurial kind of a business or a business model only when you say, because if you are taking money and publishing research which is favorable to a particular company, उसी से पैसा लिया और publish किया, that is something, and that regulation is very clear on that. So when you read the regulation, वहाँ पे बहुत clearly mention किया गया है कि boss, you cannot take money and sort of publish positive reviews or competitor से पैसा लेके write some research which is damning or damaging to another company, right? So then even that is not allowed, and that is liable for prosecution, and you get basically your license suspended and penalties and so on and so forth. It's very clearly mentioned in the regulations, right? So your business model is on for research analyst certification or research analyst registration. Your business is on if you are able to follow these things that we talked about. Coming back to the next one, which is investment advisory. Now, research analyst actually is what we talked about is actually a slightly tougher, given twofold. One is India mein there is very few people willing to pay for research. Okay, which means retail people, if you sort of go and say, because I will give you research reports. और आप मेरे रिसर्च रिपोर्ट्स को पैसा दो, and then that's how I will keep on giving you research reports. You please read and you take your informed opinion and decision. And the reason why that business model is not popular is that today in India we need, because I am not able to make, this is too complex for me. तो आप मुझे रिसर्च रिपोर्ट दोगे, मैं रिसर्च रिपोर्ट पढ़ूंगा इतना डिटेल में, और उसके बेसिस पे मैं इंडिपेंडेंटली ओपाइन करके I will do a buy or a sell. Utna, I neither have the time nor the inclination, if you understand, right? So he will say, boss, आप मुझे बताओ. You tell me what I should do. आप मुझे बताओ, मैं आप करूँगा, क्योंकि मेरे को एक तो काला अक्षर भैंस बराबर मेरे को पढ़ के समझ नहीं आ रहा क्या लिखा है. Okay, और it's too complex. आपने फार्मा की रिपोर्ट भेजी है, लेट्स से इन रिसर्च एनालिस्ट मोड, अपनी फार्मा की रिपोर्ट भेजी है और वहां पे आपने इतने सारे टेक्निकल टर्म्स यूज किए. आई एम नॉट एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड वेदर द सन फार्मा और व्हाटएवर रिपोर्ट फार्मा रिपोर्ट दैट यू हैव सेंड, आई हैव टू डू अ बाय और अ सेल. आई डोंट अंडरस्टैंड दैट. आप मेरे को बताओ ये खरीदना है या नहीं खरीदना है. If that is the thing, the business model that you want to do, this is the investment advisory, license that you will require or a registration that you will require. The business model is very simple. Now, everybody, friends, family, all of us, will give free advice. बहुत फ्री में एडवाइस आपको हर कोई देगा, एवरीबडी. आपको घर में भी देंगे, मम्मी डैडी भी देंगे, हम भी देंगे, फ्रेंड्स तो देते ही हैं, व्हाट्सएप, social media. If you go to Twitter also, was there are a lot of there in fact fight going on Twitter also. If you understand, you follow all of these large Twitter handles which actually boast about 40,000, 100,000, 200,000 followers. Because this is good. This particular FMCG company valuation is so low. So advice is very free. You will get from everybody, and sort of. So what is the right advice? That's very critical. But this today I can tell with very clear conscience that good quality advice, good quality advisors are required. One. Two is there is a dearth of this practice in India. In the Western markets, US, Europe, investment advisory or that practice is a very clearly defined, clearly on a mature practice, which means every single product that comes in their market has a line which says very clearly, please get in touch with your investment, please get in touch with your personal investment advisor, or please get in touch with your financial advisor for more details. That's a very standard line which comes in most of the collateral that foreign products have. In India, we just have इन्वेस्टमेंट्स आर सब्जेक्ट टू मार्केट रिस्क. आप जाने राम भरोसे, आप जो मतलब आपको जो करना है करो. हम लोग ने ये रेगुलेटेड प्रोडक्ट मार्केट में लाया है, एंड देन यू विल गेट, यू हैव इंडोर गाइज कॉलिंग, यू हैव sort of SMSs coming, you have stock tip coming and everything. So there is a dearth of good quality advisors. So this is one entrepreneurship sort of a role or a journey or a place that you can actually target your practice if you want to. The business model is very simple. There are its own set of challenges, but the business model is simple in the sense that you got to know your sort of clients inside out, unko kya chahiye, and once you understand that the client and you have a long-term relationship, he will go with your advice, which is obviously will be independent, unbiased, and you will pay for that advice. So it is very simple, right? Behavioral finance matters in a large way. The reason why I say that it matters in a large way is that each individual, each client that you might have who is seeking your advice as an investment advisor will be unique. You cannot straitjacket everybody, though their ages may be same, though their family histories might look similar, which means he is also he is a single income with 2 kids, wife not earning, kind of a household. Ye bhi hai, about 40 years old kind of a guy, he is seeking my advice, versus similar kind of a profile may have completely different mental makeup. Those two persons also, they might have completely different earnings profile. One single earner might have extremely low income versus one might have extremely high income, and he might have their own challenges in terms of the mental makeup that these two guys have. So you will have to deal with them individually at their level, and completely one advice for एक ही brush में सबको मैं paint कर दूंगा, I don't think that will work. We already discussed this before, changing regulatory landscape. आप खड़े हो, आप बोल रहे हो बिजनेस मस्त चल रहा है मेरा, okay, I have done this, my clients are happy. Overnight the regulation will say, बॉस एक काम करो, आज से 25 लाख नहीं 50 लाख लगेगा. So आपको रेगुलेटर बोल रहा है 3 साल में 25 लाख आपने धंधे में डाला था नेटवर्क में, तो आपका अच्छा खासा बिजनेस चल रहा है, बोलेंगे अभी 50 लाख डालो. Regulation will come on 1st January 2020, comply with it 36 months from the date of this regulation. End of story. So that is one. Second is a very beautiful anecdote. Again, if you guys are on Twitter or on social media, you would have seen there was a case where there's a fund manager, sort of a guy who's an investment advisor, and he's been in business for the last 15 or 10 years or whatever that number. He's a graduate. वो जो regulation पहले था, graduate होगा, 5 years experience, he qualifies for that. Now the regulations in 1st January 2020 said कि was the portfolio manager or an investment advisor will need a compulsory postgraduate degree in finance, economics, this falana tikra. The challenge is that the person said कि बहुत अभी मैं जबरदस्ती I am actually enrolled for a part-time MBA course. Why? Because the regulations say that you need a postgraduate degree in finance or whatever. So he's actually enrolled for a course and he's cleared whatever the level 1 of that or whatever. One first year is over. So regulatory landscape will change and you have to live with it. Now, why that is important? There are set of reasons why the regulator is saying that you need. So the regulator's basic assumption is that he needs good people, he needs qualified people, he needs people with good body of knowledge, and he does not need people who are shady. He does not need. Now it's a matter of debate over basically key degree आने से the people will become keen or not. I think let us not get into that debate at all. What I'm only saying is that the regulatory landscape will change and you have to be on top as you are an entrepreneur in an investment advisor or a portfolio manager or even as a broker or whatever, right? You will be having competition with financial planners, wealth management firms and distributors. ये होने वाला है, which means आपने 50 लाख डाले, you have a practice, your practice is doing good, but you'll always, and you're trying to get as many clients as possible, there'll always be competition from unregistered, unregulated, or even wealth manager or insurance agents, or people who may be not as qualified or who may be not as invested in terms of capital or whatever as you, but you have to live with that. And also be an investment advisor is a very versatile. So आप stock advisory भी कर सकते हो, portfolio advisory भी कर सकते हो. So I think investment advisor is a license for an entrepreneur who wants to make a career or take up entrepreneurship. I think investment advisor regulations are the ones that you should read in detail. Easy regulations to read and understand, but may be difficult to comply and build practice. So build practice may I am kind of want to sort of spend time in terms of building this, and we'll come to that in maybe another 5 minutes, because if I start this particular let's say research analyst or investment advisor or portfolio manager, कितना पैसा लगेगा versus what is the return? That an interesting part is also, hopefully I will cover in another 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll throw the floor for questions. Portfolio manager, similarly, as we already discussed, PMS, AIF, MF. Now, as an individual, anybody who's listening here will say that individuals are typically not allowed, corporate only है, net worth भी, first money on the table चाहिए आपको 5 से 10 या 50 करोड़, MF के लिए तो 50 करोड़ है, 10 crore minimum for AIF. These regulations are changing as we talk. So 2020 में regulations, even I'm not on top of it. So we'll have to check the latest circular saying that was, क्या है, as I understand these numbers are current. Net worth criteria for PMS is already, as I mentioned, it's 5. That number I know for sure is correct because I have studied the PMS regulations. I was a portfolio manager, so PMS regulations I am very well versed of. Eligibility criteria आपको minimum PG चाहिए, ये भी change हो चुका है. As I said that earlier it was graduate was 5 years, now it is actually moved to PG, which is a postgraduate degree in whatever economics, commerce, finance or whatever. Business model is AUM based, so basically आपको you will be charging clients based on whatever they have on the table, or you can specify a particular minimum, sort of a criteria saying that this agreement between the parties, and that's how you earn basically, right? So so it's an AUM based revenue model. You can go global or local. आपको कोई there's no restrictions on that. The competition here is very high, which means that right from niche like Abacus AIF, which is started from I think the CACFA guys, Biharilal Deora and Sunil Singhania, these kinds of people are running the Abacus AIF. They run a large AIF. HDFC has its own PMSs, AIFs and other funds. Motilal hai, ICICI hai, HDFC hai, all of these guys actually run. So competition from that perspective is, so unless you find your niche in a portfolio manager or a particular थीम लेके आप चल रहे हो, आई थिंक इट विल बी स्लाइटली डिफिकल्ट टू रन अ पोर्टफोलियो मैनेजर, बिकॉज देयर आर एटलीस्ट, as I understand today, there are more than 250 portfolio managers and possibly more than at least 2 dozen AIF managers in the country today in different forms or shapes. So जो भी specialization है, so if you want to make clear, first knowledge, second money on the table, थर्ड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर. तो आपको 5, 10, 50 करोड़ है तो उतना इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर आपको टीम वगैरह लगानी पड़ेगी इफ यू वांट टू गेट इनटू दिस एंटरप्रेन्योर रोल. This particular intermediary or a portfolio manager, AIF manager or AMC will typically have retail versus institutional money. वो retail जाना है या institutional जाना है वो आपको decide आप कर सकते हो. Portfolio manager typically is a mix, is a hybrid guy which has retail as well as institutional money. मतलब corporate भी लेता है, retail भी लेता है. AMC typically are retail. AIF managers mostly are either retail or mostly are institutional money. because मेरे को AIF करना है और institutional money रन करूंगा मैं. I don't want to go to individuals basically. Highly regulated है. बहुत सारे quarterly, monthly disclosures you have to go to SEBI and upload and kind of do that. B2B and B2C options you can. So how do you increase your business? ये very simple है. You tie up with existing distributors. बोलो यार मेरा fund please, I am a portfolio manager, मेरा fund आप sell करो, मैं आपको commission दूंगा. So tie up with the B2B option. Don't go to individuals or institutions and start to market. You can go to distributors who are already doing in that business. Say because मेरा XYZ AIF is there, I will give you 2, 3, whatever 4% based on your commercials and get that money and manage the money based on whatever commercials that you are entering into the client. That's the option that's the business model that you can get into. Now, I want to spend just 2 or 3 minutes on this. Financial products distribution is the entry point. Normally, अगर आप किसी को भी entrepreneur बनना चाहते हो तो ladder कहाँ है? मतलब where do I start with? Financial product distribution is the easiest plug and play criteria, which means आज मैं anybody who is 12th, who is passed his HSC or equivalent exam will say कि बहुत मैं NISM exam दे दूंगा, एक ARN कार्ड ले लूंगा which is from Association of Mutual Funds of India and start under distribution. और एक बार ARN कार्ड आ गया, I will go to a broker, I can go to Philip Capital, Motilal Oswal, I can go to Harvey, anywhere I will go and say कि boss I want to sell your products on your platform. He will give you a small form, a form भरो, you can start selling basically all third party products. आपका product नहीं है, you are doing basically financial products distribution. Because there is no minimum net worth criteria, and this hopefully again we talked about this, regulations are like sand dunes. So इसमें आपको basically when you say about okay, I think I will do financial distribution, there will be a circular, a master circular, a regulation which might come basically, right? So I think we have to keep ready for that. We will have to be ever ready for that. But this financial product distribution, as an individual, you can start it. This entire operation is less than 30 days. For the rest of the other research analysts, the time that typically takes is anywhere between 1 month to 6 months. If you are lucky, it will take Corona pandemic hai, so then the regulator will say Corona hai, and therefore you might have to wait for another 2, 3 months or whatever. But typically for financial product distribution, if you have a PAN card and if you have passed your NISM exam and you want to apply within 30 days. And today, if you ask me, because of digital Corona and the digital enabling of all platforms in a digital mode, some people are doing it in less than 7 days, which means you process the papers today, your ARM and stuff will be processed within 7 days. Okay, so this is basically about financial products distribution. So आप basically कमाओगे कैसे? So what is the business model? From a if you were to start off at a very basic level, right? So more often than not, आपका पूरा relationship जो रहेगा वो retail based रहेगा, which means you are talking to a lot of set of people, individuals. It could be ordinary individuals, HNIs in the retail, or it could be ultra HNIs, large families भी हो सकती हैं. But you are basically kind of a retail guy. The relationship in distribution matters. आप जो भी sell कर रहे हो, you can sell anything. Insurance, you can sell a PMS, you can sell an AIF, you can sell anything. But the only thing is that while doing this, if you do not have a body of knowledge, or if you are keeping your interest first, and you're not basically, and that is the point that I mentioned in point number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Many times there are conflict of interest, which means you are saying कि मेरे को commission कितना मिलता है, because the AUM is based on all trail or upfront or whatever commission. तो अभी the upfront commission is mostly gone. It's all trail commission, which means आपने 100 people को you have said कि was आप 1 crore का mutual fund, so you have got let us say 100 crores of mutual funds. That is your AUM under your basically your brokership. Then you will get a, let's say, 1% sort of a commission as an example. That's not the right number, but as an example, if you're getting 1% commission, you are basically your revenue is 1 crore rupees for on that particular year for an average of 100 crores AUM. So it's an annuity business basically. So 1 crore divided by 12 is what you will get on a monthly basis, depending upon what arrangements you have between AMC or a particular a product distributor. There is a conflict of interest inherently embedded in this. Why? Because आप वही sell करोगे obviously, which is more remunerative to you. So you might actually do some short-term or even in some cases long-term damage if you sell a product because the commission is higher, but it's a bad product for the client. You do that once or twice, you might still get away if that is the only mode that you are running your business on. because जो 3-4% मुझे दे रहा है उसका product मैं बेच रहा हूँ, then obviously you are a pure play a general store. जैसे जनरल स्टोर होता है जो if you go to a large format general store, I won't take the name here, but if you go to that, he will display products which probably are earning him a lot of more commission. So if you want to be that kind के बाद मेरे पास जो भी आएगा मैं वही बेचूंगा जो मेरे को चाहिए, okay, which earns me more commission, then that business will not flourish. That business will not give you. Not many people will like that because lot of people will start falling on their face if you're selling them bad products, right? So you have to be careful. If you work with in this business also, if you work with client as the focus, then I think you can flourish in this business, and this is a good business to be in because it is an annuity business, right? Very simple. Keys to survival, as I said already, client is always first. If you have a client as a focus and if you're managing the risk for the client in terms of product risk, I think you have done your job, right? At a glance. So I think we saw 3 or 4 different structures. So I would want to spend just 1 minute of the time of you on this parameter because research analyst के लिए, I mean, is it easy, difficult? So these are the parameters that I kind of put: structure, capital requirement, expertise, level of knowledge, regulatory oversight, and margins. Finally, ultimately, आप इतना सारा entrepreneurship ये करोगे, margin किसमें सबसे ज्यादा है, margin किसमें सबसे ज्यादा कम है. This is what it will tell you, right? So, which is the level of difficulty if you can understand the structure. You can have individual or corporate. Capital requirement minimum है. आपको network अगर individual हो या अगर if you are a corporate, then you require, the regulations require you to have a certain minimum network. Expertise qualification very high in this, which means you have to be a graduate, आपको experience चाहिए, you need to pass that particular NISM exam, which is okay, but then you need level of knowledge resources. Ultimately it is this entire practice is based on the body of knowledge that you have built over either as a part of experience or as a part of dealing with the securities or whatever market that you are providing the research on. Regulatory oversight is medium, which means you have to comply or whatever. Operational risk again is medium. Margins are very low. So अगर ये business में है तो आप if you are charging, you will charge mostly a flat fee. आप ये नहीं बोल सकते मैं रिसर्च दे रहा हूँ, आप एक काम करो, आप जितना पैसा कमाओगे उतना मेरे को देंगे. I don't think it will work this way. This particular research analyst, if you have a license and if you are practicing as a research analyst, though it is a glamorous thing that you will say, well, I got 8 over 10 or 9 over 10 of my calls are right. मैं बहुत अच्छा analyst हूँ. फिर भी आपको जो भी subscriber है will more often than not give you a flat fee. 50,000 में दूंगा आपको. And I might put, or he will not even tell you, because he might put 1 lakh or 100 crores on your recommendation on that particular script, but you will not only a flat fee. You can define that minimum मैं 50,000 लेता हूँ या 1 lakh लेता हूँ, whatever, but that's a flat fee. That's why the margins tend to be low. Investment advisor we already saw. It's a very versatile thing. Capital requirement is medium, which is 50 lakhs of the minimum net worth if you're a corporate, right? So expertise is very high because you need knowledge not only in equities, you need knowledge in financial planning, credit markets, insurance, risk management, everything. Level of knowledge is extremely high. So if you want to build a very good investment advisor practice, believe me, you require today a good investment advisor in Indian market has an experience of anywhere between 7 and 10 years. So वो experience आपको बनाना पड़ेगा. So build that experience and then the body of knowledge of yours will be extremely strong in terms of what's happening. Regulatory oversight is minimum, operational is very high, which means if you have got 100 clients and आपने group कर दिया, okay, you have 100 clients, each on an average of 1 crore with you, 100 crore का धंधा है आपका, right, 1 crore का income है आपका, और आपने एक पर्टिकुलर साल में 2 या 3 लोगों को whatever you gave a bad advice or you goofed up in regulatory risk or an operational risk, data leak हो गया, your business is at risk. The operational risk is very high. Similarly, in a portfolio manager, the regular operational risk is extremely high. मैं फंड रन कर रहा हूँ, it is 300 crore. The fund performs badly in a rising market, or when the falling market happens, the fund is lost. And these are the live cases that have happened. Market fell 50% or 30% in Corona. I lost 60% of your money out of the 300, 400 crore. When the market comes back, more than half of the business will go away. Okay, तो आपको ये operational risk, and that is based, and that operational risk will come when your level of knowledge, resources, and your body of knowledge is very high, and you have a very high regulatory oversight. मतलब internal, external regulatory oversight from SEBI will always be there high on you, but जो in the normal, if you guys, if somebody is pursuing CFA, you know that they say higher of the two, which means the regulations say that you have to be complied from 1 to 3, but I am complied from not only 1 to 3 but 5, 6, 7, 8 also. So if you have a regulatory oversight internally which is extremely high, then I think you will do a good job in the portfolio management. Finally, financial distribution, product distribution that we already saw in the earlier slide is everything is low. Up fatafat, you capital requirement is low, expertise knowledge, आपको qualification is low, body of knowledge you don't require, because whatever products you are selling, no products are already well known in the market, right? If somebody saying XYZ, the mutual fund scheme is doing well, so it will do well. All you have to do is ask the client to sign the paper, the business is with you, and you will start getting commission. So level of knowledge as such is low, but that does not stop you. You can start with this kind of a thing and start to migrate towards an investment advisor in the portfolio manager. That is typically the ladder, right? Obviously, finally the margins are very low. आप कुछ भी कर लो, प्रोडक्ट डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन में आधा या पौना टक्के के ऊपर कमा नहीं सकते हो. If you are earning more than that, which means you are actually not putting client first, you are putting your own interest first, and that is the only way that you will earn more in this kind of a distribution landscape, right? And now I am going to move very fast because I'm going to open the floor for questions. The other sort of formats, you can become a prop trader, LLP format, आप student fund run कर सकते हो, media journalism कर सकते हो, financial education आप blog वगैरह run कर सकते हो. You can take coaching programs also, right, in this securities market. Like अगर NISM का बच्चों को मेरे को ट्रेनिंग देना है या फिर CFA को ट्रेनिंग देना है, you can start off in securities market with these kinds of programs, right? Other players in the ecosystem, you will basically be also competing with a PFRDA retirement advisor, which is me. So I will also basically tell you on MPS में invest करो, and you will be sort of dealing with other competition or financial planners, consultants होंगे. Your own CA people also. CAs are exempt from regulations for incidental advice, which means anybody who is coming, retail people who are coming for CA for advice on filing, tax, planning, and so on and so forth, the CA can advise, and you are aware of that. That is exempt from investment advisor or a portfolio manager regulations to the extent that you are giving incidental advice on ELSS schemes for tax planning, for whatever, right? So that way you can do consulting as well on the items that we saw. Fintech is the other thing that you can look at entrepreneurship. आप खुद का gaps identify करो in all of the securities market, understand it, like programs like I already mentioned, Zerodha, democratic distribution, distributor को भी काफी challenges हैं in financial technology. Maybe you can do a fintech and become an entrepreneur in that as well. You can solve an existing problem here. Trust issues है, branding issues है, unlisted platforms है, goal या focus area issues है. यहाँ पे ये जो problems आ रहे हैं, you can basically attack those problems, identify a pain point and do an entrepreneurship in that as well. But all of these comes under the consulting kind of if you're solving a problem and trying to earn money out of it, all of this will become a consulting kind of a revenue, not directly related to securities markets. Before you jump into, before you jump into entrepreneurship, just spend 1 minute on this slide. Prepare basically in advance में कि आप जॉब छोड़ के आप entrepreneur बनना चाहते हो, तो have your finances or have your personal finances in shape, have all the qualifications in place. Identify because next 1 or 2 or 3 years how is your home going to run if you are single earner. If you so somebody is there with you to earn, then great, and then jump into it. Have all the body of knowledge first. CFA karo, if you are a CA, then sort of work with a CA, practice kind of have a practice for a few years, understand the nuts and bolts of securities market. Always remember that the grass is always greener on the other side. ऐसे बोला जाता है, वैसे होता नहीं है. The grass is where you will stand. So डटे रहो. I think you have to make your own basically practice and make it more profitable. And that way you have to build it on step by step. You can start with distribution. You can start directly with investment advisor and build that practice. Right. Points to remember. I've already mentioned that. Build a very robust practice, connect with everybody, learn, build a body of knowledge. Interpersonal skills are extremely important. Soft skills, as I said, and one is sort the mind out. To be really honest, which means have a very high level of ethics. Keep very simple principles, easy to identify and easy to communicate. Those kinds of principles are required. Whatever you communicate, do the same. Don't do two different things. I'm saying something and doing something else. Don't do that. Otherwise, this practice is extremely difficult. Content is what matters. आप जो बोल रहे हो, जो कर रहे हो, that content and your follow through. That's extremely important, and to take one step at a time. So that's what. And finally, things to remember. Anybody who's getting into entrepreneurship, please find out that it takes 1,000 days. 1000 दिन या 3 basically साल. 3 years is what it will take for you to break even. If Corona comes at the 3rd year, then it will take 4 years, unfortunately. So reputation is everything. So principal ethics, build a very good name for yourselves. नाम अगर अच्छा है तो आपका काम अच्छा होगा, काम अच्छा है तो नाम अच्छा होगा, and then obviously you will get the money. Money will always come. Client first is basically the mantra for this entrepreneurship, and don't take shortcuts, please. Shortcuts will get you money very quickly, but then I guess it will be a very short stint that you will have. Finally, I will leave with fruits. You are the boss when you are entering basically the business. Nobody can fire you. You are hiring people. It's a very high operating leverage business. इसमें आप जो भी capital डालोगे, that is only limited to sort of a particular amount. 50 lakh का net worth है तो 50 lakh. The amount of leverage that you will have with fixed cost is that the amount of money that you can earn typically is unlimited. If your business grows, then the margins are as high as almost 40 to 45%. And you can check with financial, all these listed companies who are operating in this domain, 40 to 50% will be on average margins of these business. Extremely profitable business. It's an annuity subscription model. आपको पैसा जितना जब भी आप client add करोगे, they start paying you, and it's a sunrise industry. अगले 10 साल के लिए I think we are under penetrated. At least next 10 years is the industry's growth rate is going to be extremely high. I think I would want to conclude with that, and I'm thankful for giving me the time and the opportunity. Extremely happy to be able to take questions now. Vinay ji?
विनायक सर।
जी बोलिए।
हाँ सर, आपको देखिए अभी पैनल में देखिए क्वेश्चन का ऑप्शन आ रहा है, क्वेश्चन का।
हाँ जी।
हाँ, तो जो सर क्वेश्चन आया है सर, वो क्वेश्चन उसमें है सर।
एक्चुअली वो एक्सपैंड नहीं हो रहा है। एक्सपैंड नहीं हो रहा है, मतलब आई एम नॉट एबल टू व्यू दोस क्वेश्चंस। द पैनल इज देयर।
सर क्वेश्चन का जो बॉक्स है ना, उसको ओपन करेंगे ना सर, उसमें दिखेगा ना सर आपको?
No, exactly, but I'm not able to view it. मतलब वो expand नहीं हो रहा है, मतलब इतना छोटा सा है बिल्कुल।
हाँ नहीं सर, उसको बड़ा करेंगे ना, उसको माउस के व्हील से ऊपर ले जाइए, हल्का पकड़िए माउस से, उसको खींचेंगे बड़ा होएगा सर। जो क्वेश्चन का बॉक्स आ रहा है ना, वहाँ पे छोटा सा ऑडियो क्वेश्चन चैट, वहाँ पे देखिए एक छोटा सा बॉक्स, उसमें क्लिक करेंगे तो बाहर आएगा बॉक्स।
Exactly, वही नहीं हो रहा है। Questions, I'm able to see that. I'm able to see only like Praveen Jain, but I'm not able to expand this. एक minute, I'm just trying once more.
अमित सर।
हाँ, okay, done, yeah, sure.
आगे सर।
Hello.
आया सर।
जी, मैं am able to see. One second.
अमित सर।
हाँ
आपको भी देखो, मैंने ऑर्गेनाइजर बनाया, देखिए आप वहाँ पे देखिए क्वेश्चन का ऑप्शन आ रहा है आपके पैनल में।
आ रहा है, क्वेश्चन का ऑप्शन आ रहा है।
हाँ
So मेरे को दिख रहा है कि ना आंसर दिस क्वेश्चंस वन बाय वन, और कैसे करें, टाइप करना है उसको।
आप नीचे एरो करते रहिए, जो भी क्वेश्चन रहेगा, जो क्वेश्चन रहेगा उसका
आंसर।
No, so okay, so I'll just answer that in the chat box basically, right? So the question was from, मैं actually read कर देता हूँ. The question was from one Mr. Sanjay Surana ji, और he's asking basically, can a person who is employed work as an investment advisor? That's a very good question. The regulations are very clear. Okay, regulations बोलता है कि if you are a practicing advisor, तो if you are earning and if the employment is from securities market, then obviously there is a conflict of interest. तो आप इन्वेस्टमेंट एडवाइजर नहीं हो सकते। जैसे अगर मैं एम्प्लॉई हूँ किसी भी सिक्योरिटीज मार्केट पार्टिसिपेंट का, then for investment advisor I have to disassociate with any kind of a work that I am doing there. If a person is employed as, let us say, a scientist, for example, as an employee, I'm working for ISRO. Can I apply for an investment advisor license? If your employer permits you to get money by practicing as an investment advisor, please have it. या फिर the direct way to answer is that if the investment advisor license है, मैं एम्प्लॉय ISRO का, मैं साइंटिस्ट हूँ, एंड माय एम्प्लॉयर ने भी बोल दिया यस आप करो इन्वेस्टमेंट एडवाइजरी, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, मैंने फॉर्म की और मैंने इन्वेस्टमेंट एडवाइजर एप्लीकेशन की, तो इफ द सेबी इज satisfied, it can give you a license and you can practice. That is the answer. But if you are working as an analyst, if you are working as an insurance agent or whatever, then please, investment advisor, you will have to disclose to SEBI, and then typically it's a full-time sort of a role. You cannot have a SEBI registration as a part-time kind of a thing, right? So that's the one question that came. Okay.
Next question is, do you need to register with someone to need a license to take the sole advisor?
Yes.
Role of the advisor.
Yes, if you are calling yourself an advisor, the SEBI regulations 2013 for investment advisor are very clear. अगर आप बोल रहे हो मैं एक advisor हूँ, which means I'm talking about a wealth advisor, investment advisor, or a planner or whatever. आप अगर बोल रहे हो कि with respect to securities market में advisor हो, shares, stocks, bonds, not insurance, but shares, stocks, bonds, any kind of advice related to financial or securities market, then you have to be registered compulsorily with SEBI. There is no other way that you can take, you can call yourself an advisor. और अगर आप बोल रहे हो आप SEBI registered नहीं हो, so you are holding yourself out as an advisor, which is illegal. So SEBI can proceed against you. Very clear.
So next question is same line. How to become the investor advisors, mutual fund and stock?
Okay, very good question. As we told in the, it was covered in the slides. If you are basically want to deal with stocks, okay, and bonds, and do not want to be called as an advisor, that's again very clear. आप खुद को advisor नहीं बोल सकते, आप stocks में deal करना चाहते हो फिर भी, so the way that you can do is become a sub broker or become a mutual fund distributor. वो distributor करके, so SEBI regulation January 2020 tells very specifically saying that आपको म्यूचुअल फंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर हो ये बताना पड़ेगा, या फिर मैं स्टॉक ब्रोकर हूँ, और आई एम एन लाइक इफ यू वांट इन अ कॉर्पोरेट लाइसेंस आई एम अ ऑथराइज्ड पर्सन ऑफ फलाना ठिकला सिक्योरिटीज, व्हिच इज फॉर एग्जांपल इफ आई हैव टेकन एन ऑथराइज्ड पर्सन लाइसेंस ऑफ ICICI सिक्योरिटीज, I will have to tell that I am an authorized person of ICICI Securities. I will not be able to say that I am an advisor, even though I am dealing with stocks. The moment I say I am an advisor, then you have to take a license from SEBI. That is compulsory, and you have to qualify for every single thing. That is mentioned in the
Next question is, please let us know the good course degree which will help to become the entrepreneur in security market.
That is an excellent question. Courses, professional courses, in fact, a CA, a completed CA, a certified CA, trying to get into a practice is itself enough qualification for you to get into an advisory role with obviously a license. A connected question is that what is the registration effect having on a code as a CA full-time practice? That was a very important question by Pankaj ji. Okay, if you are a CA in practice, you are exempt from an SEBI investment advisor license to the extent that it is incidental advice. Very clear, which means आप अगर CA हो, आपके पास आपके क्लाइंट आ रहे हैं और वो आपको बोल रहे हैं सर मेरे को बताओ आप कहाँ में पैसा डालूंगे, राइट? तो आपके एडवाइस whatever as a client, whether for taxation, whether for his own firm, if he is asking a question कि बस on a personal capacity or my firm's capacity, where can I invest? That advice is incidental advice and that is exempt. But if you are taking money for that advice, then you will have to basically get the license, even if it is a CA. And it is very clear that if it is a CA in practice, मतलब if you have a certificate of practice, then investment advisor license will not be granted by SEBI, because वो आपको डिक्लेरेशन में मांगेगा कि बस आप क्या कर रहे हो, what is the nature of your current business basically, right? So nature of the current business, I have a certificate, I have a certificate of practice, I am a practicing chartered accountant. So SEBI will say that not, I cannot give you the license, basically, right? It's very clear. It's very, very clear. If you are saying, boss, I have surrendered my certificate of practice, I am a chartered accountant, मेरे पास 10 साल का experience है, practice का experience है, securities market में experience है, और मैं apply कर रहा हूँ, right? अभी मेरा certificate of practice नहीं है. I am a member of the Chartered Accountant Institute of India. That is fine. But I am applying for an investment license, investment advisor license, valid, and the license will be given. Then you can become an investment advisor. So the connected question था यहाँ पे, does a registration affect our code of conduct of CA in full time practice? That I have answered. Full time practice में है तो registration मिलेगा ही नहीं basically. सेबी will ask you was आपको registration आप चाह रहे हो, आप full time practice कर रहे हो, conflict of interest है.
So last question, what exam needs to be given to become the research analysis, both fundamental and technical?
Okay, very good question. Fundamental और technical research analyst के लिए the course is the chartered financial analyst from the CFA Institute. अगर वो course वो 3 साल लगते हैं, almost 1 सवा लाख लगता है if you are doing it on your own based on the fees and whatever curriculum. That is an extremely comprehensive curriculum. If anybody is doing, I am saying if the CFA are also well qualified, but अगर research analyst और securities पे मतलब stocks पे मेरे को bonds पे advice देना है and make money out of it, then the chartered financial analyst, the CFA designation is a good beginning to get fundamental or technical पे knowledge, including client management का भी अच्छा खासा knowledge the CFA designation gives you.
Sir, we had finished with the all questions and answers.
Yes.
So
And I think we are on time also. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So, sir,
sir, now it's for the vote of thanks. Sir,
Yes,
it was
thank you.
perfectly deliberated by you. It was like a pilot who is started the plane with a good run up. बाद में जैसे हम लोग प्लेन में बैठते हैं सर, the risk factors come. वो
Right.
risk बताते क्या है क्या नहीं. Same thing you had gone with, and finally it was a perfect landing by you with suggesting all the parameters, and you had also thrown the light what are the opportunities as a chartered accountant one can take and one can become an investor advisor. So I am myself CA Amish Samui, convener of Andheri Oshiwara CP Study Circle. On behalf of WRC, I give you the hearty vote of thanks, and thanks for sharing your knowledge and insight to our members. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. It was a wonderful session. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We can close the meeting.
Thanks, sir. Yeah.